Alright, hey guys, welcome back. Just going to be working into designing some of these buildings out today. Probably just to start off with a little bit of drawing, just sketching out some ideas for that, and then hopefully we'll get into some a little bit of blocking out in 3D, just for what the building's going to look like, but we'll see how we go with time. So got this stuff from last week. Going to be working on building out this this scene here in the lower right, I think at first anyway. So yeah, just like these buildings here, which in terms of building them out will be probably like, you know, duplicates of each other with a few little small changes. But yeah, just going to probably do a few little elevation sketches first, just to sort out exactly what they're going to look like, and then we'll go from there. So yeah. Set this brush up. So major thing here is with this kind of thing is basically the proportions that I'm really looking to nail down, and then once we've got that, we can start to think about the detailing and stuff like that. But ultimately, we just want to find a good shape to use. So we'll probably, I've got a little bit of an idea. Like obviously we've got what's in the sketch already, but I've got a little bit of a sense in my head of what I want to do with these already. And really I don't want to be working that big at all. Just to try and like capture the feel of these first. It's always easy to do that working small, I think, because you don't get distracted by details and stuff like that. So I guess the proportion of like it's not something we can really see in this sketch or in this scene, and definitely not something we can really see in the other ones either, but like it's kind of the proportion of the roof to the rest of the building. Haven't really sorted that out. And then again, more so for my own kind of reference here, is just looking at starting to just like really quickly at first, but just like notate in some of I'm just drawing this in symmetry as well at the moment. I just want to, it's going to make it easier to just get that all set up. Just duplicate that across, not exactly in the center, but that's all right. And even though I'm really working smaller than the actual, probably like, you know, smaller than what's actually in this thumbnail here or in this scene, I'm still able to just like quickly mark in details that I want to get into this thing. So like we can play around. It's almost like graphic design. We can just play around with the silhouettes and the shapes we're creating with this stuff. And I want to go asymmetrical with these. It's going to be way more interesting. I think at the bottom, I don't know if we'll necessarily see it in this particular painting, but I want to have these larger archways kind of at the bottom here. probably actually have some sort of kind of like radial structure around the outside. I'm really just doing this to give myself something to work over when I do block out the base model for this scene, just so I don't have to be working in, I guess, like working in the dark in 3D, because I don't really like to do that. It slows things down. Let's just turn off those wake on buttons. Bits. Don't like that crisscross, that's going to get too busy. At the bottom, I am out of undos. Oops. Might mirror that kind of thing down the sides. Have I thought about how these people will survive an attack from giant bug riding Mongols? I have not. They'll probably just fly away. Because bugs, I don't know. Bugs aren't good in the air. Plus bats eat bugs, so really that would be, there's no contest. Hey guys. And the other little bit that I want to actually design out, more as a pattern again, rather than anything else, because for this particular shot, I don't think I'll have to build it out with any real sort of detail, because it's going to be so far away from camera, but is that like kind of extension bit on the side down here, those little ramps they used to launch from, so the actual geometry for building that out will be, I'm going to keep that really simple, but I do want to start to build a little bit of a, I guess like a shape language and a filigree that kind of applies to that stuff. And a lot of these like looping kind of buttresses is what I've always been thinking about for this kind of stuff, because of the fact that it kind of mirrors a bat's wing. And then I like having the idea of having this like upper support kind of coming down, almost like a suspension bridge from the side. And this will be built onto something, I guess, that has that kind of incline next to it as well. So we probably need to think about that. Doesn't change too much, but maybe a little bit of a roof kind of. Coming down that way, and I think like just in all of the corners of these things are like areas where we can just build that filigree pattern out more. Just to build up areas of like detail and areas of rest of these lines coming out. So, like I said, this really is not like super in-depth drawing. It's just so I've got something that I can look at later and know in 3D that whatever I'm building is kind of working to the proportions that I want. Just blocking a little bit of value in here in these larger sections of the superstructure, just to be able to track that silhouette. But I think something like that would work pretty well. Maybe the top needs to be slightly less tall. It's a little less tall on the sketch. Oops. Or we can go the other way. I think for this one we'll keep it shorter because we're going to be looking up from below anyway, so we will lose a lot of that into perspective anyway. Maybe we could add an extra little. In here we've got like the arm. I've kind of drawn it running more so from the very edge. Maybe that would be a cool little detail. Yeah, that's a fun shape. So if I was like, I'm not really looking for a design here in one sense, like I've kind of already done the groundwork of this stuff previous. So I'm not going to do like too much iteration on this. Just going to kind of jump into getting stuff kind of looking interesting. We'll probably, I think I'll do like another, let's just hide that for now, give myself a bit more room. Take this one. Oh, it's got the same layer. And just kind of work into that as a slightly larger object as well, just because I want to work out like some little material breakdowns and stuff like that. It's a pretty simple building design, really. Like, there's not too much crazy stuff going on. But we can clean this up a little bit, work on the material separations, which are going to, in a sketch like this, are really going to come through, I guess, as value differences. Like, that's what I'm looking for in terms of design. And then, yeah, we'll kind of jump into Blender when we can. Like, maybe spend like another, I don't know, we'll just spend like 20 minutes or so on this this is a sketch. Might be kind of fun to actually have some variation on the edge here as well. Maybe slightly more organic as well, like not like completely repetitious all the way around, a little bit more organic. Could be fun. That'll be a little bit of a hassle to model, but it may also be something that in this particular shot, like, I can just look at that. And I think one of the really important things if you're going to be doing any sort of 3D for concept is figuring out like which bits are going to be efficient to model and which bits are going to be easier to paint later on. Because as flexible as 3D is, there are some things that kind of have to be dealt with in a particular way to make it efficient, and you don't want to be fighting the tools. And then there's plenty of things where, for a designer, drawing is still like it's the most valuable tool. Yeah, that's like, it's a thing, what you're saying there, Jaden, of getting like caught up in the details with stuff and wanting to model stuff, or like modeling things that don't ever get seen. And it's if it's personal work, like, it doesn't really matter. If you don't have a deadline, it's whatever, you can enjoy that. And if you're learning, if it's teaching you the tool set and you're learning new things about it, then I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, right? But if you are working to a deadline and you have to get something done, you don't want to be wasting time on stuff like that. It's never gonna be helpful. And so, like, if that's why the sketching process and the drawing process of actually figuring out what has to be in your shot is really important. And then also, something I'll try and show in the next couple of weeks with this one, because we're going to be, I only have a couple of hours, maybe at 2.5 hours to work on this at any given time. So it's going to be, process is going to get a little bit stretched out artificially, but, making sure that you're kind of working to a goal at any given point. And I think that's important regardless with design work and working to a schedule and hitting a brief and stuff like that. It's really important to have a goal at any given point. You don't want to be just kind of completely improvising at any given stage. You want to actually be kind of going, I'm here to do this very particular thing right now, and I'm not going to get distracted by something else. Because if it's not adding to the final work you're meant to be doing, then it's not really useful. If you're on a deadline, like I said. And like, one of the other things that you can do to help alleviate that is to make sure that once you are in 3D, that you're like, if you have an idea for a composition, that you're kind of blocking your layout first, so figuring out where your cameras are going to be. So like what's in frame and what's out of frame. And if you're modeling something, if you spend an hour modeling something that is then out of frame on your render, then it's an hour you could have spent doing something productive. yeah, I think it's a, you know, it's a discipline thing. Yeah, these sessions, if for anyone who wants to watch, for sure, doesn't matter where you're from, you know, whether you want to study this later, whether you're at CDW or not, or looking to come here later or whatever, it doesn't matter. People who are already working, whoever wants to watch, this is not a, no requirement for entry on this stuff. We might, you know, I'll probably sometimes like refer to things that we do at the school in terms of classes, and definitely some of the people on here in the chat are students of mine as well, so we'll try to keep things as general as possible, but there will probably be reference to things in and around the school and people from the school. So if you hear us talking about a class or whatever, it means we're going to be probably referring to something at CDW, but yeah, anyone of course can ask questions as well. You know, and about this, about the school, about whatever, like we can talk about anything. Yeah. You can ask questions about honors feedback classes. I'm not sure what kind of questions you would have about honors feedback classes, but go for your life, and we'll see where we get to. All right, it's Evan. Hey, okay, cool. Yeah, that's the problem with Twitch names is I got no idea who anyone is because everyone's got their weird screen names. Jaden, how's it work? You have one project for the year. Yeah, so the way that it works at the moment is you have two feedback sessions per week for honors stuff, and essentially you have I may misspeak here, so I'm gonna keep this as general as possible because I don't want to say something that's objectively wrong, but essentially you have a year to, in the, I guess the Vegas terms, like you have a year to work on your portfolio, right? And then like what the projects are that go into that are kind of are like self-directed by you. So you could, you know, you can decide to do like, you could do like one world building thing. You could just build everything into the same project, or you could do a couple, you know, like that. You have a lot of latitude with that stuff. And then there's obviously the exegesis, which is the academic side of the honors thing, which is kind of like, is connected in a way, but is also completely separate. I don't really deal with that stuff myself. And yeah, basically what happens is you just, you do your work. Your timetable is up to you in that sense, like when your milestones are and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and you come in twice a week, and you get feedback from whoever is supervising the honors class at that time. At the moment, that is me and Alex. Alex is obviously doing the you know, he's there to, we're both there to kind of give feedback to everyone, but obviously Alex has got his technical background in 3D, so he's obviously more focused on that stuff, but we're both available. I've been giving art direction kind of to 3D students this semester, just in terms of their art, and then Alex takes over to help them with the actual technical stuff that I don't understand. I don't think you, again, I really don't, I don't have like the best timetable knowledge with all that kind of stuff, but essentially you don't take classes in the same way as you would in third year, right? It's just honors, like you just do honors, and so we're kind of like, yeah, you kind of like, there's opportunities for you to kind of like sit in on other classes and stuff like that, but like in terms of doing like the week-to-week homework for other classes, that's not really necessarily gonna be the focus. Like the focus of honors is to work on your portfolio projects, and that's your week to week. But yeah, like in terms of all of the enrollment stuff, that's like the questions that you are much better off asking Katie or Jasmine or Simon. But then like the sit-in stuff as well also does depend on what class it is, how many people are in it, whether or not there's room for extras, and all that kind of stuff. So that is really something that is done on a case by case. But the way that I would look at honors, right, if I was still a student, is like that's an opportunity for you to take a year to just work, you know, to get stuff done, with hopefully less distraction, and like with more focus, because you can just concentrate on like the one thing you need to be doing, which is being prolific and developing your skills and developing projects and, you know, finalizing your portfolio, making everything kind of neat and tidy and awesome and interesting, so that employers are gonna look at it and think, hey, this is cool shit. Hopefully gaining confidence. Maybe it would be kind of cool to have like this is me kind of going off, like a spiral thing that goes up here. I don't know. Random idea. Might be a bit much. I like the idea of having some sort of external structure here that like bats can come and hang on to, but I don't know, that might end up just looking a little bit scrappy. But yeah, a little bit of material break up here where I think we'll bring some maybe some like timber into here, maybe even some lattice work. Could be kind of cool, like having a break in the actual silhouette here, so you can see through the building at this point. That could be kind of cool. Maybe have like a false. So where's the middle? There. Have like a false peak, kind of in the middle that you can see. Building some lattice work around the outside. Yeah, I think we'll do something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Just a little bit of interest, a little bit of extra interest there. Yeah, extra interest. If I can talk properly. And then maybe just bringing in some little extended like peaks. Just here and there. Got one at the top as well. Wanting to have like big areas of rest on this thing. So let's just also just block in the values here, and then I think we'll probably have enough as a little elevation sketch to take that into Blender. And like I said, I think we'll build like a master version of this, and then we'll split off some little variations and just kind of move details around to get a few more in there. Really necessary to render form value into this, I don't think, but it's you can get a little bit of flair on there, I guess. Makes the sketch look a little bit nicer. I think the confidence thing there is like an interesting point as well that Ethan is talking about, and I think primarily it just comes with time. Like you have to just put time behind your craft and you will become more confident with it. I think as long as you're making a conscious decision to try and like learn things with what you're doing, you know, you're not just like blindly running through the processes and expecting to pop out the other side fully formed. I think as long as you have, you know, the right kind of intent and the right kind of work ethic, the confidence will just, it develops, because you'll be able to look at what you're doing and you'll see the results. You know, you'll see your work getting better and you'll see people responding to your work and enjoying it, and so that will make you have more confidence in your process. I think that's really the main kind of draw with that thing is that kind of approach of like just making sure that you're looking to push your work forward and lattice work in here as well, even though it's just a very simple silhouette read. It will let me kind of identify whether or not that shape is going to be effective. I think it will be. More details up the top. And yeah, I think we'll probably take something like that in to Blender, and what's that? What's that on there? Oops. So let's just make this into a nicely compact little JPEG. That is huge. It doesn't need to be that big. So So we'll just save that as a JPEG in there. It's fine. Thank you, Danger Castle Worry. Hopefully it'll turn out alright. We'll see how we go. I'm not sure if you're a student or someone else. Again, I don't know any students called Danger Castle Worry, but let's just go and grab that JPEG and we'll just chuck it in Blender. Why did I save that? There it is, cool. So we've got it there. Probably just leave it there, to be honest. I could put it into the, I guess I could put it into the viewport as well, but I always forget how to do that, to be honest, so. Probably won't. So let's just block this out, basically. Yeah, well, it's a relatively simple design, to be honest. It doesn't require a huge amount of craziness going on. And it's really just going to be kind of, because it's all radial, it all kind of builds around the outside, and then we can probably just block in some little, drop that down to about there, that, delete that. We can just, yeah, block in some kind of elements and then duplicate them radially around the areas where they need to be. Could merge all those together, but I think we'll just keep them separate for now. Simplicity is key to good design. Yeah, I mean, yes, I think so. I think that can mean a lot of stuff, but I think in general, yes, if we want to make a statement in that area, like, yes, I would say so. Whoops. What did I just do there? And then one thing I'm just going to do here is make just a couple of materials. Probably not. I guess we'll. There's a buck in heavy poly. Just give them like very, very simple colors here. Just like that for now, just lets me kind of see what I'm doing. And I guess actually we probably need a roof and then we need a wood as well. So we need 3 materials because I want that to be that also. So we'll just make a very simple texture as well. Be a little, I'm fiddling with details now, but that could be a little bit lighter, just so we can kind of build some stuff out and just very quickly give it a material. Yeah, the modeling on here is going to be pretty quick and dirty because like the majority of the heavy lifting with any of the detail is something that I'm going to be able to do quicker in Photoshop. So that's centered in my scene, it is good. Let's go with 6 because I want to. Keep this stuff relatively simple.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Just kind of looking to see like just looking basically for things like how they react with light and stuff like that. Obviously we don't have a light in the scene yet, but just looking for those interesting kind of silhouettes and stuff like that. The color ID stuff's pretty simple with that. They render out at a pretty low contrast setting, which can make them a little bit hard to use in Photoshop. The only thing you need to do, like we can do this right now because it is very, very quick, is essentially just, you know, setting up your, we'll go over how to set one up later on when we actually need to render one, but essentially what you need to do is come down here to color management, click on use curves, and then you can muck around with the contrast of the render, like actually in Blender. And that's basically it. That will give you a much higher contrast color ID pass to render out, which is kind of what you want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start yeah, I mean, gamma is not going to really do much for you because that's just essentially like a brightness offset. You want to muck around with curves. So actually what I might do here, just because I've got the sketch, is I will just bring in an image as I guess a background image, right? It's been a while since I've done this. So I guess we just bring in this building sketch as a background image. Yeah. Ooh. And I don't know how to like, is it like an opacity thing? Yeah, cool. Let's just turn that down a bit. Okay, cool. And we only see it when we're aligned orthographically, so that's exactly what we want. And then let's just, no, it's already, is it going to be set it so we can't select it because I don't want to accidentally click on it. And then, yeah, what we'll do is grab just a vertex here and duplicate it out here, and we'll separate that to a new object. And then we can just come in here and this is not like good modeling practice in a sense. Well, it's definitely not going to be good modeling practice. Oh dear. But it should give us something to work from. So I'm just extruding like a single vert out here just to make some really dodgy end-on platforms. And what I'm actually going to do here is we'll just turn on auto merge for vertexes, so when I merge them together they just become a singular thing. Just makes life a little bit easier. And then what we can do is we can just basically start to model out vaguely correct silhouettes. I'll do this roof section is going to have to be like a curved plane, but we'll at least we can at least make that so it's kind of correct. And then this one here, I'm just, you know, kind of having to imagine, I guess, in my head how I want to orient all this stuff. Lots of just loose, crappy floating geo, so if you're a 3D artist, I apologize. Alright, but that basically lets us do something like this. And what we will actually do is let's rotate this by 90 degrees. Let's mirror it. Is that? Oh, that's going to mirror on the other side of the world. Okay. Let's cross that over like that. Let's mirror it. Move it over here, and then let's grab our picture here, and hopefully. Made my life difficult there by destroying that, but I think that lined up about there-ish, right? That's close enough. Anyway, I'm just going to do it like that, because then I can turn off the selection on that guy again. Then we can just actually kind of like try to build this out a little bit better as we go along. That'll give me a better sense of exactly kind of like how it's fitting together. Even though, because orthographically this stuff all still lines up. So this way we can actually start to build these forms out in a hopefully useful way. And I'll probably, even for like the really fiddly filigree stuff in here, again for this shot it's probably not going to matter a huge amount anyway. Probably just leave most of that up to the painting stage of things. Maybe some elements to this building that, to be completely honest, would have been quicker to do, like a sculpt or something like that, but you know. It's really, with all this stuff, like, and with concept stuff as well, it's like it really doesn't matter what tool you're using, I don't think, as long as it gets the job done, but you want to be relatively efficient, but if I was any closer to this kind of curvy stuff, I would probably just go and do this in 3D coat or something like that, because it's going to be quicker, but oh, I've got that annoying extrude bug. Damn it. Still don't know what causes that, but it's super annoying. cruddy manual extruding. In the meantime, and this is definitely not the most efficient way to do this, but I want a little bit of imperfection in there anyway though, so I'm gonna live with my decision to do all of these things by hand. So it's maybe a little bit too imperfect, but anyway, good enough. So you can see this is like super gross in terms of like actually being usable geometry, but kind of does the job. And the other thing I'm going to do, just like to get some get a little bit of that filigree in there, is to just draw around with the grease pencil, which doesn't really show up super well on here, sorry. That's a bit better. Because what we'll be able to do with this stuff is actually like take it and convert it into geometry pretty easily, which is kind of cool. So it's actually really good for filigree stuff like this. So I'm just vaguely using what my sketch was kind of starting to denote to kind of get some of this in here, because it, again, like the distance that this is going to be from the camera, are really more concerned with just kind of like building up something that looks all right. Don't really need a huge amount of detail or anything like that. So set that. Whoops, hang on. Done a bunch of dumb stuff here. Whoops, let's delete all of that and let's make sure that we've actually got our cursor is there. And not on a surface, we'll do it to the 3D cursor. That's what I meant to do. Whoops, that's all right. Just make sure that's, yeah, cool. It's in the right spot. So yeah, this doesn't show up, it's kind of coming through as slightly transparent, so it's not showing up super well, so apologies if you can't really see it, but it'll be there soon enough. Let's see if we can get one big one relatively close to there, and come in here and get some of this smaller stuff as well. And hopefully I can remember, I know there's a way to do it, that when you turn this grease pencil stuff into geometry, there's a way to, like, pretty sure use the just smooth it a bit, just make it a bit nicer, and just merge points by distance, which will just help simplify that a bit. And then let's convert that to a Bezier curve. And let's move that over there. And sorry, let's then convert that to polygon curve and oh. Let's take that, let's convert that to mesh, and then let's use QuickPipe. Oh, QuickPipe is not broke. And then Blender crashes, because that's how Blender works. Awesome. That was probably my fault. I should have saved it, but I didn't. But I'm sure we had a decent autosave on that. It'll be fine. See how much work we lost. Just a lot of the grease pencil stuff, but that's all right. These things happen. Cursor, cool. Okay, I've turned the strength up on the grease pencil now, at least, so it's a little bit more visible. Smoothing, we can actually, let's turn the smoothing up on the stroke a bit too, because that'll give us some nicer shapes. Cool. Let's go with that. Alright, object, convert the path, hide the grease pencil for now. There's our path, so we can take our path and convert that to a mesh. Go into the here, we can do a limited dissolve, which will just clean things up a little bit. Make it not too crazy. And now we should be able to quick pipe it. There we go. And we can turn that into some cool stuff. And there is definitely a way to make that. There was, I don't know, maybe I've forgotten how to do it. I have definitely forgotten how to do it, but that's all right. We just do this kind of manually in terms of just making it, just tapering some of these. I would not want to spend too much time doing this because it is a bit of a waste of time. I do remember there is a way you can do this with a like actually taking the pressure curve from when you actually drew it to now, but this will allow us just to like quickly throw this stuff in. It's going to look a bit ugly, but you can kind of see how it gives us like this quick kind of really weird spaghetti kind of whoops, yeah, weird spaghetti geo, but it is actually relatively useful for building this detail up, and we can mirror this stuff and everything, so kind of a fun little technique. Good for stuff where you just don't need fidelity, but you know, we can build something that will react with light nicely. So yeah, kind of a weird thing, but you get some cool results from it. And now that we've got a bit of geometry here too, we can also quite easily just start copy pasting stuff, you know. So if we want another one in here, like, you know, if we just decide we need a bit more detail further in, we can quite easily just go and build that stuff. Put them together later. Okay. If that's fixed my extrude, no, my extrude is still broken. I think for this main one, I'll also do this as a pipe as well. Is that? Oh, that's mirrored itself. I think the pipe mirrors are a little bit broken, so I'll have to mirror that manually later. But yeah, we'll just do that one with a pipe because I think that'll look nice. And we'll just convert that to mesh as well. We'll mirror that and give it the same wood material. That. Then let's just grab scale it up and drop it in there for a bit of free extra detail on there, which we maybe we don't want that, I'm not sure. Can mirror that side. Stuff from screen space, which is kind of yuck, but if it gets the job done for now, then that's all that matters. Really only concerned with how this looks when it catches light, so I'll just go back and check occasionally just to see what it's all looking like. relatively interesting. That is, I'm going to duplicate that and turn that into, no, turn that into mesh. Hide that. Yeah, cool. Because for now that's all fine. Join those two together. Together actually. Just duplicate that down there. Oops. Forgot those mirrors. Actually, yeah, let's delete that. Duplicate that again, and let's just apply that mirror on this duplicate one so that we can then scale it down without that mirror getting broken. And let me get something like that. That's obviously not centered, but that's easy enough to do, like that. And let's work on getting some of these cuts out of here. What did I do? just going to make some really gross kind of Boolean cutters here. And pivot that around the cursor. Oh wait, let's just zero this guy out first. And I think this stuff needs to be relatively random, so I'm just gonna keep duplicating this and keep rotating it around the center pivot of the actual building, and then we'll go back through and just like edit all of them for size. So basically these are just going to be like little plugs that get cut out of the building. Cool. So that gets us to kind of to there, which is nice. I'm going to separate that out as a single object as well, so it's a little bit easier to oops, it's way too much. Oh, I thought I duplicated that out, so I'm just going to duplicate that, then we'll extrude it. That'll help. Alright, and this is going to be, let's just get cursor to selected. Don't know why that comes in at a weird normal, but anyway. Let's separate this out again and go to the top and just duplicate that radially around. Don't quite need that many, we'll just get enough just to fill it. And then we're just going to randomize, where's that there, a little bit, that's too much. Just a little bit of randomization like that. And just Oh no, that's gone mildly off center. For... Okay. For some reason. You know what? I don't care. Doesn't matter. We'll just do it like this for now. Delete that inner cone anyway. Because that gives us something that looks pretty much correct. And we'll duplicate that inside itself. So cool. Let's add a few lips to that, just so if we do have to texture it, it becomes a little bit easier. Oh. Actually, we'll keep the one at the bottom there. I don't think we need the one at the top. Probably take that up a bit there. Here, just steal like, I don't know, probably just steal this thing. Separate that to its own object. We'll just zero out his X and Y's. Sorry, yeah, no, that's fine, that does the job. Make him a bit smaller, we can bring him up here. We'll just make him smaller, but we'll fatten him slightly, squish him along the Z axis. Rotate him on X, drop it down a bit like that, a little bit bigger, cool, and then we can just, hopefully, let's just make sure this cursor is actually centered up again. Yes, it is, good. And then again, we'll just duplicate him around, give him 12, I think that's probably the right amount. Maybe some more. Let's do 24. Oh. Cool. And just because we're going to be looking like up at these things, I want to get a little bit of that kind of detail underneath. That will be kind of important. And because we're going like dropping back to, where's the sketch? There it is. Kind of dropping back to this thing here, like this is what we're building. You can kind of see like where we need detail and where we don't. So obviously we've got the second building in there. It's gonna be important to get the big doorway arch on that second building. Obviously having the launch pad there, and then a second one we've got here, so we'll copy that one around. And just getting some little like edge details around the edge of the roof there. Again, for this particular image, like that's probably easier to do in painting, but we can definitely maybe just duplicate some tiny little detail out of here just around the edge of the roof just to give ourselves the measurement, I guess, of that. And we can probably just do that by duplicating this guy out. that. That's of course going to be invisible. Let's just very quickly just grab a vert here, and we can you know, this is a super gross bit of geometry, but come to the top here and just duplicate that around the outside, maybe 12 for that one. And that's just, you know, that is something that will be vaguely visible. Slightly fatter, a little bit taller, like that, and they pop through kind of both bits there. So yeah, we'll be able to see the silhouette of that, which would be nice. For this one, this needs to come down lower. Higher, and I mean, I should care kind of like where that is exactly, but I don't particularly. Along there until it kind of fits in. That should get us to pretty much where we need to go. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller as well. And if we come to like rendered view, we can just kind of see how this whole building is going to interact with the light. I think I need to turn my shadow distance up there. Where's that other light? That's what's killing it. There we go. Nice little shadow. Sun shadow there. Kind of see that we can start to replicate a little bit of the lighting from that scene to kind of like confirm that this is all going to work pretty well, which looks like it will, which is good. Booleans are getting pretty big and ungainly, but that should be all right. we want to do something? I mean, actually, we don't need to for this one, do we? Because we're underneath. I was going to say we probably want to put a little bit of texture on that roof, but we won't need it for this shot. So I'm not going to bother. Just going to bevel that slightly so we get rid of that gross little hard edge there. Pivot around the cursor. Let's just move. Oh no, that's not worked. Oh, we're in custom pivot. We want global. There you go. So that should allow you to just rotate that around the building to wherever we want it. Let's get rid of that camera. And probably for this, what I'll do is I generally will just build these things in one scene, and the actual scene that I block out in is going to be a different one. And again, with the pretty simple geo that we have here, we're going to need to get some arches around the, like an actual set of arches around the top too from the sketch. Can't forget that. And maybe a couple of other little details we'll kind of get in there as well. But let's just go and grab our original. Always like to just keep every piece in a scene. I like to just save out as its own little like duplicate, so that I've always got it. It's kind of like having a Lego set. Let's just move you down out of the way. Move you up a bit and in like that. So again, this is not going to be perfect, but you can always rotate that other tower around a bit. So what we'll do is we'll take, actually this, I'm going to save this again. Let's just save this on the desktop. Because this boolean might explode. This boolean has exploded. There we go. We just need to make them so they're not, as soon as they overlap too much, that boolean will stop working. And it's probably gonna not work. You can see it's kind of a little bit busted there, but like that's fine for what we need this to do. Yeah, that's a little bit crap, but it does work. And I guess if we want to be really picky, we can kind of like try and center that one up a bit more, but it doesn't really matter. And then yeah, we're kind of getting there with that guy. What I'm gonna do is let's just move our sun out of the way. Let's grab all of this stuff. Let's put this in its own little collection called Tower. Actually, let's call that Tower Master, and then we will duplicate that collection. Just call that Tower 1, like that. Hide the Master one, and then with this, I'm just going to go through because now we're at a point where we have got all these cuts and stuff, but I'm really not too interested in working non-destructively with this. So I'm just going to apply all of the Boolean cuts. Delete all this stuff, which is just going to give us a more manageable set of objects. basically. And what we can do with this one is we can have that as the first one, and then we can duplicate that collection again, and we'll call this one Tower 2. And select that. And we can just start like using this as the basis for our other little tower here, which is, it's smaller and it's probably a little bit dumpier, a little bit squatter. So we'll just, oops, select the objects in this scene and delete him as well. Select those objects and just like scale it down. Whoops, that's going towards the cursor. Let's not do that. Kind of rotate it around to give us something relatively close to what we want. Even though we'll set this up in a different scene, but at least if we can test to see if this will. It's not what I wanted. Test to see if this will. Oops. Nope. That one. Test to see if that'll give us vaguely what we need. So that's kind of our cliff edge. So yeah, you can kind of see that that's working pretty well. Needs to be smaller, but it's working. And we can probably force a bit of perspective in the painting as well by just putting that thing further into the ground if we have to. But yeah, we'll be able to build something pretty effective with that, I think. The shape around the sides is a little bit off on this guy, so we can just dissolve these, and then we can re-bevel that to make it a little bit more pot-bellied, which I think is what we want. Yeah, and then we can muck around with him from there. Cool. So, yeah, one thing that I did want to do with this, only because it's a really quick step, is probably add in like a little bit of a diffuse texture for the actual brick for these, or whatever the sandstone these things are made of. And there's a bunch of ways we can do that. I probably don't need too much like roughness and stuff, but I'll probably just make a little hand-painted texture. Okay. Thing to go with these. Just do a little 2K texture, and yeah, just kind of get like the vague color that I want. So like this, and just like, yeah, just start painting in some little bits of nice imperfection, and probably put a little bit of a gradient on it too, because I think that tends to look quite nice. That kind of thing. Not going to do any like crazy shader stuff on this because I just don't think we need it. I probably won't even bother tiling this. I'll just project it in Blender, and that will get us an okay result. And then we can just blend the projection together to eliminate any serious issues with that. So yeah, just little hand painted things like that. Even like something this simple will probably work relatively well. So we can come in here and I'll just open up that wall texture and we'll just drag, we can just drag that in here and give that some generated. Oops, that's wood. We don't want to do that. We want to do building. My bad. Wall texture. Generated box blend. This color done. To the scale object. Actually, what am I doing? Doing stupid things. Oh, we can do it as a cylinder, I guess. Okay. There we go. That's better. So it's pretty, you know, it's just a little bit of extra detail in there, but it is something that will come through. And then what I'll probably do is actually just go and grab a nice little, where would we have that? Just go grab a nice little roughness map for the rest of this. This is just a grungy kind of cement texture here. For the roughness, that's obviously needing to be a little bit more done. I need to map there. Actually, let's give that its own. Let's give that its own mapping. Then we can nope, I was going the right way. Let's just make that smaller. And then we can use color ramp. Here, just muck around with exactly how that kind of fits. Even like just a bump map on there as well. That is obviously way too strong. Like just the tiniest amount of bump. Even though it's like tiling horrendously, it'll at least give us a little bit of texture in there, which might be kind of fun. And yeah, that kind of like, you know, starts to give us something that we can now quickly build the painting out of. I think like the rock assets and stuff like that, given how this image is going to turn out, where are we here? Like, might build a couple of very simple rocks in 3D for the foreground, but really, like, it's not anything too crazy. We don't need to spend huge amounts of time on that. And yeah, like the rest of this can really be painted pretty easily, I would say. But that's probably going to have to wait until next week. I'm actually just going to come in here and just rebevel that for that guy as well, because I think he needs to be a little bit more pot-bellied as well. We can do that next week. But yeah, you can kind of see how this starts to look pretty nice. And you know, if we go into all the that's a not nice looking. Wait, no, let's just hide that. Yeah, go in here and like we'll have a little bit of fog and stuff in the final shot, but you can start to see how we can get a little bit of cool atmosphere in there, and obviously the, you know, we'll kind of blow the sky out to a nice kind of looking kind of blue. And I'm not sure, yeah, we could even probably do a nice little ray traced render of this one. I think that would be kind of cool. Let's turn on optics because that's going to be quicker. But although of course optics always does this, it takes a little while. But yeah, we'll probably might see if we can get those rocks just like built out in the meantime off the stream, because that won't take very long. I've probably already got some assets that I can just throw in there. And yeah, then next week we can hopefully get into painting this up. And I don't think this one really, like, I mean, depending on how much detail I want to put into it in the end, this shouldn't really take very long to paint. Because it is mostly just landscape stuff. We can spend a bit of time on the bats in the foreground, making them look nice. And hopefully this will, hopefully this will come back before we have to end up the stream, but we will end it there. I think once we get this back and we can kind of see what that render is going to look like, we'll probably call it there. So not always the most interesting thing, I don't think, watching someone model, but hopefully entertaining enough or informative enough. There we go. All right, so we can get some nice, we're obviously getting a lot of reflected light off the sorry, let's go into here. A lot of reflected light off the white at the bottom there, which was looking a little bit weird, but yeah, chuck an HDRI on there or something as well, and that'll look super nice. Get the denoising going so we can have a look at what that might look like without all that gross noise. That should look pretty cool. Yeah. And even though it's all rough as guts, that tends to be how I use Blender for concepting, because I don't want to waste a bunch of time on that kind of stuff. So yeah. But yeah, guys, we'll save that, so just in case it crashes again, we don't lose everything. But might add a little bit of extra scene lighting to that and stuff, but we'll know once we get that actually blocked out into the scene. Maybe some little interior lights here and there, but again, we can paint and embellish on that stuff later on. But yeah, that's the workflow that I tend to use for this kind of stuff, so hopefully that's useful. And yeah, I'll see you guys all next week. Catch you later.